Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to part 3 of our concert experiences show. Hope you enjoyed the first 2 installments. Seems like you did. I've got a lot more stuff to go, so I don't doubt that part 4 will be coming as well. So we're going to try and dive right into it. Also, I want to thank Jason Morris, one of our dedicated viewers, who I had the pleasure of meeting last Saturday night in Albany, New York at the Judas Priest Uriah Heep show at the Palace Theater. Jason was kind enough to reach out to me and find out where I was going to be hanging out. Wanted to come meet and gave me one of his shirts here. He has like a little martial arts school, all right, up there in that neck of the woods up in New York, and he gave me one of his shirts. Also gave me one of his little prints there because he's a former Olympian. So very cool to meet you, Jason. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Wearing the shirt in honor of you today, all right? So we left off in our last show, right around the 2005 time frame, okay? And I specifically want to kick it off and talk about a specific show, which I'm pretty sure is the loudest concert I've ever been to in my life, all right? To the point where it was excruciatingly loud. So I'm talking about August 21st, 2005, the inaugural Gigantour Festival tour. So this was started by Megadeth and Dream Theater, and also on the bill was Nevermore and Fear Factory and Symphony X, and I believe the Dillinger Escape Plan. Don't remember who else. There might have been another band or two. I forget. It was like a whole day thing. So there was a bunch of other bands. So this is in Poughkeepsie, New York, at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, late August. It was pretty damn hot outside, and I remember specifically that day I went to the show. I had just gotten to know Ken Pierce from piercingmetal.com, and he came up for the weekend to go check that out with us. Chris Caffrey from Trans-Siberian Orchestra and Savatage came with us. My webmaster over on the Sea of Tranquility website, Greg Stewart, was with us on hand. We were there covering the show. We actually did a little interview with Burton from Fear Factory down in the depths of the Civic Center beforehand. I remember running into Dave Mustaine. First, when we walked down there, he was sleeping on a couch. Then, second, as we were walking out, I walked up and introduced him. He was awake, and he kind of like blew me off, whatever. But Burton was very cool. Met a couple other guys from various bands there, which was pretty neat. And a really cool show. But the problem was the air conditioning inside the Civic Center wasn't working. So it was like 1,000 degrees inside. So, you got a couple thousand people in there packing the place in. It was hot as hell, and the bands were excruciatingly loud. I mean, to the point where your ears were hurting. I have never experienced such a thing before. Now, remember I told you in the last episode that I saw Manowar back around that time. And hold on a second, guys. I forgot to grab my water. So I had experienced Manowar once before, and that was pretty fucking loud, but there was nothing compared to this. Dreadful loud. Painfully loud. I remember and I love Symphony X. They're one of my favorite bands, but man, it was just unbelievable. And Megadeth were not very good that night. I remember most of the bands were very good. Megadeth I thought were not good at all. Dream Theater were very solid, but it was the problem is with just so many bands. It was so hot. It was so loud. So many hours later, by the time you got to Dream Theater, the headliners Dream Theater and Megadeth, you were fatigued already. But I remember Nevermore being great, and I remember Fear Factory were really, really good. So there was some really good performances, and I'm missing a couple bands I know. But just overall, a fun show, but way too hot, way too loud. And to this day, I still remember that show as being and I've seen other Gigantour performances on future tours, which I'll get to, which were spectacular in a different type of setting, like outdoors and all that kind of stuff. But this was just too much. What else we got here? Therion at BB King's. Sounds of the Underground. Okay, so this was kind of cool. So this was I'm going to say the same year. All right, Sounds of the Underground. Yeah, it doesn't say the year. I'm going to say it was probably 2005 or 2006. So this was down in New Jersey at the Starland Ballroom, okay, and that's South Jersey. And it was outdoors in the parking lot. So the Starland Ballroom is actually a club but they decided to have it in the parking lot of the Starland Ballroom. So you had, and again, it was this was in July, all right? It's either the same year or the following year. I forget exactly. And it was hot as hell outside, and there was no pavement. This was like in a pebble and dirt parking lot. So you had the stage out in the parking lot, and then you had everybody just kind of hanging out all over the place. And I got down there. I was on the guest list, so you can actually see my little press pass there. That's it right there. And I was set to interview Devin Townsend, who was playing the gig with Strapping Young Lad, who were still an active band at the time. And I remember the interview with him was actually conducted in the club, which nobody could go into, all right? And it was air conditioned and everything like that. And I remember sitting down with Devin, and he was watching, they were showing MTV, and they were showing some, really, because, this was 2006, they were 7. They really weren't, or whatever year it was, 5 or 6. They weren't really playing a lot of videos, but I guess they were playing some music videos, really lame stuff, pop stuff and all that kind of hip-hop and crap. And I remember Devin and I are sitting down starting to talk, and he keeps glancing up at the monitors, the TV screens in the bar, and he's just wrecking on these acts and wrecking on MTV. And I remember, and he was just such a fun dude to kind of hang out with and talk to. We had a great conversation, a great interview, and then of course he went up and totally kicked ass with the band, which was kind of neat. But I ran into the guys from Opeth over there, and I remember, specifically Michael Ackerfeld was hanging out, and their then keyboardist at the time, Per Weiberg, was there, and I had a choice to talk to one or the other. But Michael was kind of busy with a bunch of people, so I wound up just talking to Pierre, who was a very cool, nice guy. Met Gene Hoglan, okay? Gene Hoglan was playing drums for Strapping, so met him. He's a mountain of a man. Met all sorts of cool people. Clutch was on the bill also. Lamb of God was on the bill. Opeth were on the bill. Strapping Young Lad, obviously. A whole host of other bands. As I Lay Dying, I believe, was on the bill. But, one of those days, again, way too long. Way too hot, and it's just it just can only do so much. What else we got here? Hammerfall at BB King's. Gigantour again. What else? Symphony X at L'Amour's. Stradivarius, New York City, BB King's. So this right around this time is where I was heavily doing a lot of press stuff and press coverage for a lot of metal bands in the New York City area. So basically how it worked is I would, be contacted by the record labels or the bands themselves. Would you like to come and cover our show? We'll put you on the guest list, get you a photo pass. You can go up and shoot the bands, and then do a review on the website. So that's what I did. So I was going very often, if not every week, sometimes multiple times a week into New York City to kind of do this. So I got to see every metal band practically over maybe a 5, 6, or 7 year time period where I was doing this quite a bit. What else we got here? Meshuggah, all right, 2005, October 7th. What else we got here? Black Label Society at Nokia, 2005. That was kind of a crazy show. That was right around the time, right after Dimebag Darrell had lost his life, and Zach was really, really upset about that, and because they were really close friends, and I think he was really paranoid that something like that would happen to him. So he was drinking a lot, and I remember he showed up an hour and a half, 2 hours late for that concert, and we had started to hear in the press box, that he was at the hotel and he was all paranoid about the New York City gig, and he was drinking up a storm, and he literally showed up and he looked out of it, just strung out. And I remember he would get up and talk at the mic and just going on and on and on about Dime, and it was a weird, really weird show. Really weird show. And thankfully he straightened his act up after that, but what else? Opeth, Nevermore Into Eternity, Webster Hall, 11/3/2005. Suffocation, Decapitated, Aborted at the Chance. I believe that was a Rock Fantasy celebration day. The Outlaws, 30th Anniversary Reunion, BB King's, October 15, 2005. So, you got October 15, 2005 at BB King's for the Outlaws, October 26, 2005 for Black Label Society, November 5th, 2005 at the Chance. So, I was all over the place. Journey at the Beacon Theater, okay? November 23rd, 2005, I took my wife, well, not yet my wife, but I took her to see that. What else? So, within the span of a couple weeks, tons of shows, right? November 18th, 2005, Him at the Hammerstein Ballroom, another one, right? Arch Enemy, November 28, 2005, at Irving Plaza. Okay, Nemec was also on that. A Perfect Murder and All That Remains. Fear Factory, November 8th, 2005. Fear Factory, Soilwork, Strapping Young Lad at Darkane, Irving Plaza. All right. Children of Bodom, Trivium, Amon Amarth, December 14th, 2005. I mean, this is a ridiculous amount of shows. There's no way I can do that anymore, but that's what I was doing back then, right around that time frame. December 19, 2005 at Madison Square Garden, Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Took the family. Well, not yet officially my family, but took my then girlfriend and her my stepson. We all went to see Trans-Siberian TSO. That was a lot of fun. Sodom, Fintroll. This was kind of like a birthday night out for me in BB King's, New York City, January 8th, 2006. All right, so that was just 3 days after my birthday. Nile, Hypocrisy, February 6, 2006. Also with Decapitated, BB King's. Dream Theater, Radio City Music Hall, April 1st, 2006. That was the Octavarian tour. They actually recorded that tour. That was pretty cool. A really long show, all right? That was a Night with Dream Theater show where you get like 3 hours plus of the band. Morbid Angel, Behemoth and Crisian, BB King's, April 9th, 2006. What else? Carl Palmer Band, all right? 2006, June 6th, I believe that was. Got to meet Carl. Very nice guy. That was kind of a fun show. June 6th, 2006, yeah. Def Leppard and Journey, PNC Bank Art Center, June 27, 2006, down in Jersey. That was in the pouring rain. We were wearing ponchos. My wife and I and another bunch of friends went down for that. This is a funny one. Asia at the Nokia Theater, which is now the Best Buy Theater, I believe it's called. It might be called something else. I haven't been there in a while. September 8, 2006. That was notable because I brought my then girlfriend, now wife, to that show and insisted she would enjoy it because I couldn't get anybody else to go. I insisted she would enjoy it, but she's not big on prog rock, right? So I remember she actually sat through the first two songs, decided she did not like it, and again, she didn't know Asia from a hole in the wall, and decided to take out her iPod and put that in. She just listened to her own music for the whole time. I couldn't understand it, but hey, whatever. Celtic Frost, September 15, 2006. All right, kind of notable. That was Celtic Frost's big kind of return. At the time, I had actually gotten to know their former drummer from the classic years, Reed St. Mark. Reed St. Mark and I were living in the same town. I did not know it till one day I walked into the gym and where he had just started working as a trainer. And I remember going to work out and I'm looking over and I'm like, that's Reed from Celtic Frost. So, of course, I had to go walk up to him and introduce myself, tell him, who I am, what I do, and all that kind of stuff. And we became very close friends. And I had actually, shortly thereafter, I had scored an interview with Tom Fisher from Celtic Frost, okay? And I kind of plotted it with Reed that Reed would be in the room with me when I actually got Tom on the phone, okay? And about a quarter of the way through the conversation with Tom, I had Reed interject and ask Tom a question, and Tom was like, I know that voice. And they hadn't talked in many years, and so I kind of got those two guys together. It was really, really cool. And Tom was just totally like, wow, like, this is just amazing that this happened. And then at the BB King show, Reed and I went together, and when during the meet and greet, they got together, and then Reed introduced Tom to me, and he's like, so you're the guy who did this, right? He goes, and he was like, thanking me for the interview. You guys, thank you so much for putting us together, so on and so forth. So that was kind of a really cool thing. Gigantour, Saturday, September 30th, 2006 at PNC Bank Art Center. Probably the best Gigantour show I ever saw. So this was, Dream Theater was no longer on the tour. It was Megadeth and Opeth and Arch Enemy and a bunch of other bands. And I remember every band was just great that night. And it was on a nice, like early fall evening in New Jersey, and the weather was great, and every band just killed it. That was very, very memorable. What else we got here? The Who at TD Bank North Garden, 2006, in December. So my wife and I actually went to Boston for the weekend, which we tend to do every so often. And I knew that weekend the Who were in town, so I got 2 tickets. It was the first time for her seeing the Who. She kind of dug it. She wasn't crazy about it, but she kind of dug it. I liked it a lot. They weren't as good and powerful as the 2002 performance I saw, but still a memorable show. Kind of cool to go to the TD Bank North Center Arena in Boston. That was kind of neat. What else we got here? Children of Bodom, Amon Amarth, Gojira, December 17, 2006. Mastodon, Starland Ballroom, 2007, February 10th. Cradle of Filth, Irving Plaza, March 4th, 2007. Meatloaf. Took my wife to see Meatloaf, right? I had never seen Meatloaf before. Middleton Civic Center, Poughkeepsie, New York, March 26, 2007. All right, here we go. Here's a great one. So, March 30th, 2007, Heaven and Hell at Radio City Music Hall. So, of course, Heaven and Hell is the Heaven and Hell Mob Rules lineup of Black Sabbath, Ronnie James Dio, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Vinny Appice. All right, they decided not to use the Black Sabbath name. They came out as Heaven and Hell. Their triumphant return to New York. This was at Radio City Music Hall. I was there. They had camera crews. They filmed the whole thing. If you own the Blu-ray or the DVD or the live CD album, whatever, I was at that show. And I remember, I went with, 4 or 5 buddies, and we were all sitting in different places. We didn't actually just go, let's buy 5 tickets or whatever. Everybody bought their own ticket. It's just the way it worked out, right? So we were all sitting in different places, and I remember the entire evening, we just all kept texting each other saying, oh my God, was that the greatest thing ever? After every great song they played. And they were so on that night. And Ronnie was just feeling the love from the crowd. I mean, people were chanting, Ronnie, Ronnie, Ronnie. I mean, I literally shed numerous tears that night. That's how great it was. And I just, every time, every now and then I go pop in that Blu-ray or the DVD, whatever it is that I have, and I'm just kind of like, man, it felt so good to be there, because of course I'm a huge Sabbath fan, and I love that lineup of the band. It was just really, really cool. April 26, 2007, Dimmu Borgir at the Nokia Theater in Times Square. Rozfest, Rites of Springfest. I'm going to talk about that during the Nearfest episode, so we're not going to do that. Emperor, the triumphant return of black metal legends Emperor, June 1st, 2007. Immortal, July 13th, 2007. How cool is that? 2 back-to-back months, 2 legendary black metal bands from Norway. All right? I was in my glory there. The Police, live at Giant Stadium, a return for the Police. That was August 5th, 2007. Took my wife at the time. That was good, and other friends of ours. Symphony X, August 2000. I know, we're jumping ahead. August 11th, same year. Shadows Fall, September 13th, 2007. Symphony X, once again, Starland Ballroom. Okay, so Symphony X quite a bit. Catatonia, Scar Symmetry. Insomnium, September 6th, 2007. Swallow the Sun, also on the bill. Sonata Arctica. All right. With Unexpected Firewind and whoever else. I don't have a date. So, Genesis. My one and only time seeing Genesis, believe it or not. Giant Stadium. This is on the Turn It On Again tour. Thursday, September 27th, 2007. That was pretty cool. I would have liked to hear more old stuff, but they did a nice medley, which I really appreciated a lot. What else? What else we got here? Behemoth, Job for a Cowboy, Beneath the Massacre, Gojira, November 18th, 2007. Lamb of God, Hammerstein Ballroom, November 30th, 2007. I interviewed someone from the band during that time backstage. I forget who. I actually have a funny story. So Beneath the Massacre, and I may come up, but I'll tell the story now because I'm not sure if I have a stub for it or not. I actually went to see Beneath the Massacre, who were kind of like a technical, kind of death metal hardcore band. I went to go see them shortly around that time. It may have been 2008, something like that. And they played in a small little club in New York City that really didn't have a stage. It's just basically they just set up the stage in the corner of the bar area. So there was no riser or anything like that. And I had a photo pass, so I'm up in front, taking pictures of the band. And kind of dangerous because there's all this moshing going on right in front of the stage. So I figured, all right, I got to make sure these moshers know that I'm there taking pictures. So I was watching very closely, trying not to get pummeled by the guys behind me. But at one point, the guitar player who was right in front of me that I was taking pictures of, he wasn't really paying attention. He's banging his head and thrashing and stuff like that. And he turns around real quick, whacks me on the side of the head with the head of his guitar. Boom, I go down, camera goes all over the place, I'm seeing stars, and I'm like, okay, I get up, I grab my camera, and I'm like, that's the last picture I'm taking tonight, and that's the last time I put myself in a predicament like that. Never again. Never again. What else? Amon Amarth headlining at the Fillmore in New York City, which is actually Irving Plaza. I don't know why they decided to call it the Fillmore for a couple of years there. Robin Trower, B.B. King Blues Club, March 18, 2008. What else? Queensryche, Nokia Theater, September 21st, 2006. Ministry and Meshuggah, May 1st, 2006. Iron Maiden at the Izod Center, East Rutherford, New Jersey, the former Meadowlands Brendan Byrne Arena. That was March 14, 2008. If I remember correctly, that was like a Maiden's greatest hits night. So they played like all the popular songs that you'd want to hear. Symphony X Epica, Nokia Theater, April 5th, 2008. Symphony X, that's the same one. Gigantour with Megadeth, Hammerstein Ballroom, April 22nd, 2008. I think Children of Bodom were on that. I don't remember who else. Meshuggah Ministry, I already talked about that. Progressive Nation Tour. So Dream Theater stopped doing the Gigantour thing, and they did the Progressive Nation Tour for, I don't know, a year or two. Dream Theater, Opeth, Between the Buried and Me, 3, and BT Bam. So yep, that was the line. That was a very cool show, and that I believe was at God, what is the name? I forget the name of this place. It's like a really big club down on the west side in New York City. I can't even remember the place. We'll see if I have a Terminal 5. That's it. Yep. So it was 3, Between the Buried and Me, Opeth, and Dream Theater. That was a great show. Really great show. Nightwish, Sonic Syndicate at the Chance, Poughkeepsie, New York, May 8th, 2007. Death Angel, God Forbid, June 11th, same year. Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Outlaws, Bethel Woods, Bethel, New York, June 20th, 2008. That was a great show. Great night of Southern rock. Liquid Tension Experiment, June 23rd, that same year, 2008. That was a lot of fun. Summer Slaughter Tour, headlined by Black Dahlia Murder and like a million other bands. I think that was the last one I ever did. I was like, enough, I can't do these all day long. Sweaty club, too many kids throwing punches and kicks and stuff like that and just trying to be tough guys. I was like, you know what? That's it. So that was the last one I did. That was June 26, 2008. King Crimson at the Nokia Theater, Times Square, August 14, 2008. That was a great show. Journey, Bethel Woods Center for the Arts, August 30th, 2008. I believe that was with Heart and Cheap Trick, if I remember correctly. Great show. Great. Heart were incredibly good that night. Opeth, Nokia Theater, Times Square, September 18, 2008. Dragon Force, the Fillmore, otherwise known as Irving Plaza, November 25th, 2008. In Flames, December 6, 2008, at the Bowery. Trans-Siberian Orchestra at the Izod Center in East Rutherford, New Jersey, to December 13, 2008. Todd Rundgren at the Blender Theater, December 26, 2008. Cradle of Filth, Nokia Theater, February 27, 2009. Earth, Wind, and Fire and Chicago, Bethel Woods Center for the Arts, June 14, 2009. How are we doing on time? I'm going to do a couple more, and then we're going to leave the rest for another day. Heaven and Hell, The Last Time, at the WAMU Theater, which is a theater at Madison Square Garden, August 25th, 2009. As we know, Ronnie was no longer with us not shortly afterwards, so I'm more than blessed and thankful that I got that last time to see them. And I believe, who opened up for that show? Coheed and Cambria opened up that show. It's kind of a weird mix, but it was okay. Good band, though. Just weird mix for them. But that was another great show from the guys. Allman Brothers Band and Widespread Panic, August 26, 2009. Notable for a show that I insisted on dragging my wife to. Okay, I had already taken her to 2 previous Allman Brothers Band shows, and she was like, I never want to see the Allman Brothers again, because, again, my wife is not into, like, guitar solos, especially Allman Brothers Band, 20-minute guitar solos, and just too much jamming going on. She's just not into that whole thing. But I insisted on taking her. And the weather sucked. It was this was like late August. It was chilly. It was rainy, and it was a little bit of a wind. So even though we were under the roof of the pavilion and not in the lawn, the wind was blowing the rain sideways. So she was upset that she was getting wet. And then we sat behind these people who were really drunk and drinking a lot of beer. And one of the people at one point, it was a woman, spilled her beer, landed on my wife's leg. Okay. Drenched her. We went and moved somewhere else because they were just getting really rowdy, and let's just remove ourselves from the situation. So we went and sat somewhere else where they had empty seats. The wind picked up. We were getting wet, and even though it was like halfway through the Allman set, I was like, you know what? I should probably take us home. And it was probably really good. One of the best choices I ever made. So, guys out there, if you're in that sort of situation, keep the wife happy. Take them home, all right? You'll live to thank me. What else we got here? Renaissance at the Egg in Albany, New York, October 13, 2009, a magical concert. I cried during Ashes Are Burning. I literally cried. That's how beautiful that was. I had never seen them before. I was like, this is just too cool. What else we got here? Nile at the Gramercy, Between the Buried and Me at the Irving Plaza, January 30th, 2010. Epica, Gramercy Theater. The night before, 2010. I remember that specifically. So at the Epica show, I was there with my friend Ken Pierce from piercingmetal.com. We, of course, were taking pictures and covering the show, whatever. And I remember I probably drank about 9 or 10 Guinnesses that night and lived to regret it. I got really hammered. And I got really hungover the next day. I remember waking up, and we had to cover the Between the Buried and Me show the next day. It was like a whole weekend-long thing. I stayed at his place in Brooklyn, New York. And I remember the next morning, I felt like death. And, I can usually handle my Guinness, but, Guinness is this, you can have 4 or 5 or 6 Guinnesses. You're okay. You don't want to go too much beyond that. Well, I went beyond that. So the next day, I remember he ordered a couple pizzas, and we ate that. That was kind of lunch and dinner, and no, that was lunch, and that kind of got me in somewhat of a mood to go get ready for the BT Bam show. And I remember we went to Duke's, which was an old bar right around the corner from Irving Plaza. We went there to have, he had some more beers. I couldn't drink anything, have something additional to eat. I remember, it was like 3/4 of the way through the BT Bam show, and I'm like, I got to go home. What I did last night ruined me for the whole weekend. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to leave it at 2010. So let me cover the rest of the 2010s, and then we'll come back for part 4. Opeth at Terminal 5, April 7th, 2010. Great show. Fozzy, Chris Jericho and Company, April 28th, 2010. Man, I got all sorts of picks here, too. Chris and Pelletieri, and who else? God. So it was cool to show off the picks, right? I got random picks all throughout this book as well, given to me by all sorts of guitar players over the years. Primal Fear at the Gramercy, May 10th, 2010. Uriah Heep, B.B. King Blues Club, June 2nd, 2010. That was a great show. Iron Maiden at PNC Bank Arts Center, July 11th, 2010. That was with Dream Theater, if I remember correctly. Santana, Bethel Woods, Center for the Arts, July 17th, 2010. REO Speedwagon and Pat Benatar, August 28, 2010. A lot of 2010 stuff. Foreigner at the Dutchess County Fair, August 27, 2010. Wow, so that was literally the day before the Pat Benatar show. God, we were busy. Iced Earth at the Best Buy Theater, September 23rd, 2010. I believe, God, was that with Symphony X? I think that was with Symphony X, or was that with Accept? I don't remember. What else? Styx. The Grand Illusion and Pieces of 8 Tour, October 30th, 2010. Dimmu Borgir, Terminal 5, November. Oh, that was in Albany, New York, the Styx show. That was great. Played both albums back to back. Loved that. Dimmu Borgir, Terminal 5, November 8th, 2010. And that's it. I think 2011 is everything going forward. Yes, indeed. So a lot more Dream Theater, a lot more Allman Brothers, a lot more Uriah Heep, all sorts of stuff. So there you have it. So basically this show was mostly about the concerts that I was covering for seatranquility.org. And as you can see, a lot of metal, a lot of stuff. But also, I was, at this time also, going to a lot of shows with my now wife locally to see a lot of classic rock stuff, especially in Bethel Woods, New York. So a lot of fun. These were good. These were fun times, okay? But you'll notice in part 4, things are going to change a bit. Okay, so a little bit less of a lot of the extreme metal bands and more of the stuff that, as an older guy, because 2011, I was, obviously, 40. Do the math, Pete. You can do it. 45 years old. Starting to kind of slow down a little bit, starting to really want to see some of the stuff that I really want to see, right? So yeah. So stay tuned for that. This is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the Mighty YouTube often. Lots of good stuff coming up, so don't touch that dial. Tell your friends, subscribe, and let's get the comments and feedback going. Let's get some dialogue going, and we'll see you real soon. All right, take care. Bye-bye.